The same applies to COVID-19. It is not only a virus. It is a messenger.
His path from classroom teacher to researcher, government strategist, and wildly published commentator traces the complicated evolution of post-apartheid public life and governance in South Africa. Aubrey Matshiqi was born in November 1962 in Orlando West, Soweto. Growing up during the height of apartheid, Matshiqi's formative years were shaped by the civic and political mobilization that characterized the township experience. He trained and worked as a teacher. He taught mathematics, science, and English before completing a degree in history and English literature. He is also a former member of the United Democratic Front, the African National Congress, and the South African Communist Party.
Politically, that house, 8403 Cincy Street, where I grew up, is the place where I got my first lesson in South African politics. What had happened is that my parents had asked a cousin of my mother's, who had gone to Botswana on business, to bring back an LP of Harry Belafonte and Miriam Makeba. Now, that LP at the time was banned. So when it finally did come, we could not play it during the day in case those who were spying on behalf of the special branch told the special branch that we were playing that LP. So we listened to that LP at night. And the songs and the people the songs were about were quite new to us as children, because this was 1976. And it was before the 76 riots. So you have a song like Batleli Bonke in Tilongwe.
He grew up in the Anglican Church. That is where he was baptized and confirmed. However, that is not where he felt the presence of God. A friend of his took him to a mosque in Cape Town, and there too, he did not hear God's voice. The day he felt the presence of God was finally in a Hindu temple, and he did not want to leave. Bringing research and communication together, Matshiqi also worked inside government. He was part of the strategy unit in the Gauteng Premier's office and served as a spokesperson for the MSc for Education in Gauteng. These roles gave him close exposure to the operational realities of provincial government, insights into how policy is translated into practice, how political messages are crafted, and how public institutions respond under pressure. After leaving formal government roles, he continued as an independent analyst and commentator, bringing insider experience and independent critique. Until March 2011, he was a senior research associate at the Center for Policy Studies in Johannesburg, and from December 2016 until his resignation in February 2018, he was a research fellow at the Helen Suzman Foundation. Matshiqi appealed to South Africans to reflect on the meaning of signs of the times, because they were an opportunity for people to do better and live better. 3 months after Matshiqi had foretold of the coming fires in the country, chaotic unrest broke out in the KwaZulu-Natal and Gauteng provinces, with malls and warehouses looted and burnt down to ashes in some areas. During the unrest, more than 300 people lost their lives.
So I look at the fire at Charlotte Macrack, the fires in Cape Town, the African Studies building burns down, the Rose Memorial burns down. There was another fire in KZN. These are not just fires. These fires are prophecies of a storm of fire that is coming to this country if we do not change. The same applies to COVID-19. It is not only a virus. It is a messenger.
Aubrey Matshiqi is an independent political analyst. In his life, he has been involved in the ANC, Umkhonto weSizwe, the student movement, and the South African Communist Party. However, he is also a Sangoma. He began training to be a Sangoma in 2013. When talking about his spiritual calling, he said, "As a Sangoma, I now know that my calling is something I was born into, because my childhood dreams, which showed me that I worked with the spirits of the water, were dreams about me and the sea. I started having them long before I saw the sea with my own eyes, at the age of 10. As I grew older, I realized, and this my parents realized much later, that I could see some things about people and events before they happened. So I knew I was odd, but did not know why until I had an interesting encounter with a traditional healer we used to visit before we went on missions of Umkhonto weSizwe." Matshiqi's analysis is defined by several recurring features: an insistence on historical context, or focus on institutional health, rigorous interrogation of intra-party dynamics, especially within the ANC and its alliance partners, and attention to socio-economic questions such as inequality and service delivery. Rather than settling for surface explanations, he tends to trace problems to long-term structural and cultural causes, a method that helps audience see events as part of a broader narrative rather than isolated crises. Prior to accepting his spiritual calling, Aubrey was an atheist. He describes his atheism as an intellectual condition, a disease that started attacking his spirit when he was in his early 20s and almost devoured his soul. A time when his intellect was the most important dimension of his being, he wanted to prove to others that he was intellectually sophisticated and could therefore grasp heavy intellectual matters such as historical materialism, postmodernism, deconstruction, and post-structuralism. To be an atheist was the highest form of intellectualism. He admits this was fake. He goes on to say, "The only time we went on a mission without consulting him," referring to the Sangoma, "we were captured by the South African Defence Force. It was the same traditional healer who 30 years ago told me about my calling. For 30 years I ran away from my destiny until it caught up with me in 2013. The twists and turns of my spiritual journey cannot be told in a single article. With the benefit of spiritual hindsight, I now know that the sound of the drum at the Tamil temple transported me to a place where I met God and my ancestors. But it was many years later, in 2013, that I understood what the drum was saying, and I was born to be a healer. I was born to be a Sangom." Aubrey Matshiqi's biography shows how a disciplined intellectual with roots in education and a willingness to work inside and outside institutions can shape public debate. He offers historical depth, practical experience, and a willingness to engage in a difficult public conversation. Whether you agree with all his conclusions or not, his contributions help clarify some of the trickiest questions facing South Africa's democracy.